First of all, thank you so much, Jen, to spare your time with me. If you mind, if I share my screen so that we can discuss about um, what we're gonna talk today
Yeah,
about my thesis.
yeah, no worries.
Thank you. I gonna share the screen. So please let me know if you see the screen, please.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Um, so I'm doing a PhD research under the topic of performance management to understand the best practice how to manage in high-tech engineering and tech company. Um, During the course of number of years, I have been gathering the data collection and case study, and it come up with 9 conceptual model, if you like. And
Yeah,
in that 9 conceptual model, one of the key parts is the finance and funding, which is the core of any businesses. So I like to gain your expertise and experience in finance and funding in high-tech engineering company. And I have to reset again that your identity will not be disclosed in my thesis. So your data will be um, shared as the one participant in tech company. So please be reassured for that.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so first of all, I like to you see the rich picture here for the process of how the high tech or tech company do the fundraising and how they manage their finance using the KPI. The first thing I like to gain your perspective on in your past experience, in particular at Expert Automation. I'm sure that it's a good size company and you must have some kind of the key performance indicator. And if I
Yeah.
ask you to rank like the top 5 ranking of these, you can see from the screen here, what do you think they are in the top 5 in ranking, please?
Right. So I would say cash flow's your number one.
Yeah.
Uh, Working capital's quite another big one.
Yeah.
Um, Revenue growth rate. I think probably uh, profit maybe number 3,
Yeah.
and revenue growth rate. 4 and 5 are either of those two. They're both equally as important as each other. But say return on investment, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. And if I may ask your view and why you think that the cash flow and working capital, including the profit, they are the top 3 of the key KPI in the company, please?
If you haven't got cash flow, you haven't got a business. Your business is finished. Um, and we went through that in Expert. Very nearly. You lose the whole business. Cash flow is the main important thing in a business. You can make, you can have great products and fantastic, you know, people who work for you and lots and lots of orders and all of that. But if you haven't got the cash flow, your business fails. You've got nothing, because cash flow is what keeps a business alive. If you can't pay your rent, you only takes one supplier fund to take you to court,
Yeah.
and they can start winding your business up. If you can't pay them, they can wind your business up, and your business you will go under. So cash flow, working capital helps an awful lot if you've got working capital, and obviously profit is good. There's no point in running a business if you're
Yeah.
not making profit. You know yourself. So take for example Oxford Vision.
Yeah.
If you hadn't been sensible and had money in your bank,
Yes.
you would be struggling now, wouldn't you?
Very, very
So
incredible. I think that incredible struggle. I think we're just so lucky that we have a
yes,
sufficient cash flow to stay in
that's
difficult time, right?
That's not look fun. That's you being clever. With that is you. A lot of people see they run through a period of making money and they spend it, or they take it out and they spend it themselves. If you hadn't left that money in the business, you'd be struggling now. Because, and do you know what's a really interesting fact is, when a business is doing very well, that's when they should apply for finances,
Yeah.
because the banks will only lend when they're doing well. If
Yeah.
you then go through a really hard time and you don't have any money, they don't want to lend to you then. You can't get the funding. So you should get the funding, which seems ridiculous. So say if your company is cash rich and you've got a lot of orders and you've got lots of money in it, then go and get funding for more money. Look at the future and get more money then, because the time when you need it and you haven't got any money, they won't give it to you. So
That's a
it's,
great point. That's a very great point. In the same way as bank in the bank and from the investor as well. And when they see us no money, they beat us on the ground.
yeah, they won't lend it to you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think that's a very great point, and I've seen quite my experience working for several company, and I appreciate that the cash flow is the most important when it comes to company. However, I still see quite several companies very struggle and went out of businesses. So, please may I ask that how the cash flow are actually managed? It as you see in the top right here. I'm being lucky that I have some participants who share their view with me for questionnaire, over 50 participants for just a questionnaire alone. And we can see that there's sort of the profit and cash flow are hand in hand. That the
yeah,
highest, most important, and everyone
yeah,
seems to appreciate and know about that. And it's a lot higher rank for the rest of the three ranking. If you see that 23 and the rest
right,
are 18, so it's quite distinctive. However, you see again, you can pick any company that out of business, either big or small. They just run out of cash flow,
yeah.
and how the cash flow have been managed in the company, and what trigger it make the company miss it and went out of business by not able to manage their cash flow.
We so at Expert, we did a cash flow. So we had a really complicated cash flow, which was an Excel spreadsheet basically,
Yeah.
and it was probably, I don't know, it was probably about 15 different tabs that all merged into what would tell you where you were at any particular week of a 13-week period. So over 13 weeks, you would know when you got a problem and when you got more cash. And you would maneuver over 13 weeks. So you would know if you couldn't pay your, say for example, your tax and national insurance for your
Yeah.
employees. You would know when your VAT has got to be paid. You would know when your wages, your rent, your rates, all of the commitments that are the overheads of the business. So the things that you have no choice but to pay. So you would know over a 13-week period, and then it would be like suppliers, paying suppliers, and you would know when all your money's coming in, and you'd know when all your money was going out. So over the 13-week period, you would be able to manage, and you would know if you couldn't pay something. So you would work it round where you could. So sometimes, for example, if you've got a job that was going out of the door, a big job that had got to be delivered, and one job was more money than another, and you needed that cash, you would prioritise that job over another job to get it out the door so you could invoice it. So it was a really really tough cash flow. We used to do it every single week, and it took 2 full days to do the cash flow.
2 4 days a week.
Yeah, every single week. Yeah, that's how you manage it. That's how it was very complicated, but it was
Wow,
very, very, very important to the
that's
business.
incredible.
When we went through a really hard time at Expert when it was sort of more me and Angelo, and so we were funded. We had financial funding, so we had cash, confidential invoice discounting. So they kind of, when you go and you get invoice discounting, they
Yeah,
own your business. They own the business over you. So basically, if anything, so their vision when a financial company lends you money as a invoice discounting, they become top priority over anything. So if they think there's a problem with your business, they just go in and they take everything, and they have that right to do so. You sign those agreements when you take the invoice discounting on. So they can take priority over any payments that come in, and they can decide how you run your business. So if they think at any point something is going wrong, i.e., they don't like, there's lots and lots and lots of what they call covenants that you have to meet, and it's things like, for example, you have to your aged debtors can't go over a certain amount. For example, if you owe money to people, you can't go over, say, 120 days. You have to turn a profit of so much over a period of time. And if you renege on any of those covenants, they can come in and they can take over what you're doing.
or
So
is that called
you have,
governance, Jane? Is that called
sorry,
is it that practice called governance? It's like a regulation from the bank or the lender.
covenants are like, for example, if somebody's going to loan you money,
Yeah.
they will say you have got to make a profit of 50%. You have got to, what were the other covenants that we had to reach? You would have to, so say, for example, they'd say in a quarter, your profit has got to be, so this, have you heard of EBITDA?
Yeah, yeah.
So EBITDA, they would say your EBITDA has got to be over a value. You've got to make a profit of so much. You've got to, so they're what they call covenants. So they're like stipulations on your agreement. So what you're saying is, yes, we will have this finance off you, this money, but what we will do is we run the business and we've got to run it to that level. So if you drop below the levels, they could then be really harsh and come in and say, right, you're we're now we've lost faith in you running the business. It's about being in control of your business. So you have to prove that you're fully in control of it. You know exactly what's going on, and you are managing that business absolutely, solidly.
Yeah.
And that's what a cash flow is all about. That can prove at any point you know well what you're doing in your business, and you can manage that business. So it doesn't matter if you've got money problems, because you can put something in place to do something about it. So
Yeah.
the cash flow doesn't always paint a good picture. It can paint a bad picture, but as long as you show you've got something going on to make that bad picture better. So, for example, you could say, in 13 weeks, we've got a VAT bill, it's that much money. Therefore, we're going to go to the bank and ask for an overdraft on our facility
Yeah.
so that we can manage that period of time. And then in another 5 weeks after that, we get over it and we're all okay. And then we start to pay that money back. So a cash flow is extremely important to a business.
So it is very intense and stressful process, right, when it comes to managing the cash flow of the business. And is that I mean, I'm still a little bit not quite clearly understand what the role of finance director like yourself or the accountant. I mean, how we differentiate between the two, and I believe that for medium size to rather big size like expert company, you still have finance and accountant in the same role as yourself is the head of department. It's worked that way, right?
As in an accountant and a financial director, you mean? What's the
Yeah, it's
difference?
like
Yeah. Okay, so an accountant can basically an accountant can do everything up to a financial director will sign off accounts for so your year end.
yeah,
A finance director can sign off those accounts, so legally they can sign them off. An accountant can't do that.
right,
They're not legally allowed to sign off accounts. A finance director has like legal responsibilities, so they legally are obliged, and they have to like follow a board, like they have to be chartered. And if
yeah,
you're chartered, you are then you have legal responsibilities that you are true, and you know there's not anything. Oh, mind you, an accountant can do that as well. They have a lot more legal responsibilities as a financial director than an accountant does. An accountant is all about ethics in accountancy, that you agree that everything is it's your responsibility, that what you're doing what is legally, it's ethical, as in, you're not cheating,
yeah,
basically. You're not doing things that are underhand. You're not hiding things. You're declaring, that there's things wrong, or, you let's have a think. So, and a
so
financial director is responsible for that. They could be struck off where they're not allowed to be a director anymore. Whereas an accountant, it's still the ethics in an accountant as an accountant, but you're not, a lot of people don't want to take that responsibility. They
no,
don't want the responsibility of being able to be prosecuted. You could go to jail as a
yeah,
financial director. You could be put in prison for fraud, or, things that aren't correct. You probably could as an accountant, but a financial director is the person that is responsible for it all at the end. So they do more. They're probably the people that would agree the deal, like the finance deal that I was just
yeah,
saying about there. They would probably be the people that would sign all those agreements, and that they would be, whereas an accountant runs your business, but a finance director would be somebody that makes uh, the decisions on the finance. So they probably set more budgets, and they do more of the financial agreements, the loans, the banking side of it. They do all the higher. That's why you don't really see a finance director in a smaller business,
yeah,
because you don't need one. Whereas when you get to a higher level of a business, there's a lot more decisions to be made, and the managing director wouldn't necessarily, for example, currency exchanges and hedging, like
yeah,
forward purchasing of currencies and things like that. You'd normally have a finance director do all of that. So it's more for a bigger business with bigger turnovers. Like when I think of Tracker Windsor, that runs at about £4 or £5 million. You don't really need a finance director in that kind of business. Whereas experts, more 40 million, and that does need a finance director in there.
yeah. Nick Turner, right? That he in charge.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah. Nick Turner's the financial director,
and
yeah.
in that case, the finance director need to like got certified what you call the charter, right? That he need that certified to be able to hold the position of financial and also sign off some legal paper documentation, right?
That's it. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
I can see that, and in the past, I know that expert is coming from a few men until a few hundred, and I believe that Angelo value you support greatly because I believe at the early day is you and him side by side look after the
yeah,
financial, and that time you hold accountability for more things, right?
yeah. So so up until about, sort of thing, still ran it at about four. Yeah, we're still running the business, just us really, up until about 12 million
Yeah,
turnover. And then after 12 million, it just became more and more difficult.
yeah,
And we used to have a finance director, but not a part-time, so not full-time, but part-time finance director that would come in and help. Um, and then after that, that's when we sort of realised that it's quite demanding. There's a lot of work banks wise and producing. All banks want cash flows on a regular basis.
And what is the turnover point at the point where Angelo consider have the in-house financial director? Um,
Uh, what was the beginning of that question,
uh,
Fawn? Say that
what,
again. At what
how
point?
much, yeah, how much the revenue the expert and yourself and Angelo consider that is a time we our revenue is this much and we should consider have the
I think it was about 12 million.
okay for the
I think it was about 12 million. And we just thought, no, 12 million was a part-time.
yeah
I think probably then
yeah.
about 30 million, we decided that it was worth having a full-time financial director then.
I can see the expert is exceptional. I mean, I'm so value like how you and Angelo, make it, and because finance is a key part of that truly, and I think Angelo value you as part of the business. I can see that clearly, and you know that from nowhere until where expert revenue go up to like 70 million, 90 million at the peak. That journey is of course become decades. And what do you think in terms of financial and management? What drive expert to come from like he self-made millionaire and to the point where it could be one of the biggest automation manufacturer in the UK and of course very competitive globally as well.
It's the growth of a business. So you it's really difficult, isn't it? Because it's a lot of things. You grow your business slowly, so you get more people. So you get very good people, very good engineers, very good project managers. You get you get a senior team of people who then get more orders with higher values of easy, good work that make a profit. So your work is manageable. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
It makes a good profit and it's easy to do. And then as that starts to get higher, because you then have to prove to these businesses that you're bigger. So it's a bit of a race. It's a race for everybody. So you then have to get funding. So it's the funding. You have to get funding to be able to manage the people, and you get more people. So then you get more orders. So then you have a bit of so then we had a bit of a collaboration with Traco Inza.
Yeah.
So we'd offer a package opposed to one item. So Angelo, extremely good salesman, Angelo is, very knowledgeable, very confident to prove that he could do the work, and he would deliver. He would deliver fun no matter what. You know, even if it was the Costa expert, he would still deliver what they needed. So very reliable, so that when people, especially Jaguar Land Rover, because at that point Jaguar Land Rover was probably about 80% of our debtor book, which is not good. You ideally do not want one debtor to be 80% of your book debt. You want debtors to be about 30%, each debtor 30%, so that if something goes wrong with them, you're not, fully in there. But we were about 80% with Jaguar Land Rover. And he would win, he would convince them. We would, instead of offering one item, we offered a whole package. So whereas Jaguar Land Rover would say, for example, go to 4 different customers for the whole package that they wanted, we could offer the whole thing and we would manage all of it. And they liked that. And so it saved them having to keep going out to different individual companies. We would offer the whole thing to them. And they liked it. And we took on all of the other companies and we would manage all of that. So I think that was quite a bit of the growth. That's how all of a sudden we shot up. And then obviously got more clever at doing it, with more people, and got better people, which means I believe expert now are they're diversifying away from Jaguar Land Rover and going into different, they're going more into medical and they're going more into housing and other areas apart from Jaguar Land Rover. So it's about being and bespoke. They were very bespoke, opposed to saying we can only produce that and that's a square lump and that's all we can give you. They could say, oh yeah, but we can add a curve on there, or we can add something on there. So they were very bespoke, which not a lot of, and there wasn't a lot of competition, to be fair. There was a few, a handful, but we were very good at being the best in the market, one of the best in the market.
Yeah, in the past, right, it's much less comparing in today. The automation house from big and small company, or even just a few guys, they already set out automation house already, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you're talking about like I admire Angelo a lot personally and business, and I can see he's such a great role model for businesses, and I think I like that he come from he made his fortune himself, and I value him. He's a very credible person. I mean, very very, and he have a very good
he took a lot of risks. He put a lot of his own, you sign over your own house, and you put a lot of risk there yourself, and he was prepared to do that. So, it's...
You need to raise a lot of money, right? And you need to get like a mortgage back personally from himself personally, right?
Yes. Yeah, he did. And he took a lot of risk, which a lot of people wouldn't do. So and it's paid off. Fortunately, it's paid off for him. It could have quite easily at some points gone the other way. Believe me, it wasn't all plain sailing. It was very difficult at some points. But we got through that, and that was, I couldn't be more pleased for Angelo, where he is today. And he deserves it. A lot of people work at like Jaguar Land Rover and they earn money, and to run your own business is really difficult. You know that. It's very, very hard, isn't it? And you just have to keep going. You have to get through these hurdles because you don't know what's around the corner and how things change and where you can end up. So you just got to keep going.
Very hardworking as a person, and also he know how to manage people as well very well. I think that he
Also, Fon, it's you. you employ good people. So as much as Angelo's not good at everything,
Yeah.
he had the right people in the right jobs to help him along the way. So it's as much as, you know, majority was Angelo. It wasn't all Angelo. He was good. I mean, Phil Kelly was extremely good for the business. You know, having Phil on board was really good move, and just what we needed. And having surrounding yourself with very good people, which costs a lot of money, is good. Is, you know, can be very good. So like Angelo now has people working for him, and he's sort of taken a step backwards. These people are now running the business, but they're people he trusts, and he's put in those positions to do it for him.
He gained a very high respect from people and royalty. And I think that it's very important to keep great people around him because of the way that he treat and the way that he manage. He gained royalty from his employee and colleague, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
And may
yeah,
I ask that, I can see Angela have been one of the most successful person for what he's doing, but there is I think a point where it is struggle, and I think he mentioned that to me himself as well, that there is one point
yeah,
that they nearly not be able to pass it. There is a
yeah.
critical period, and comparing to what triggered like a well-established company to the point where you could have lose your company at some point.
Yeah, we did. We nearly lost it. Very nearly lost it. It was, so, you know, I was saying to you about cash invoice discounting,
Yeah.
and we had a provider of that. So a big finance company provided us with cash invoice discounting,
Yeah.
and those covenants, we were not allowed to make a loss, and we had a really bad project, and the project really spiraled. Do you remember? I don't know whether you ever remember it. It was a company called In Alpha. It was
Oh, I
in
know. It's
the Netherlands. Yeah,
millions for that project.
that spiraled and spiraled and spiraled out of control. That did, and we weren't massively in control of the business at that point. We'd grown very quick, very fast. We didn't do cash flows. And this loss, you're meant to, in your finance provider, you're meant to inform them straight away if there's a problem, which we didn't really, Angelo didn't really read that part, and we never told them. We kept thinking it would get back on track, and it didn't. So we then had a finance director come in and work for us, and he thought it would be a very good idea to tell them everything, the truth. So instead of doing it gently and gradually, he said, let's just tell them. So we did, and they took over the business and said they'd lost full faith, and they wanted, so they provided us with £8 million worth of finance.
Sorry, who
They
who
wanted,
provided it?
yes. So they would allow us,
Investor.
yes, they would allow us £8 million worth of like finance. So, you know, when you raise an invoice, you would get 85% immediately of the value of the invoice, and then when the customer pays, you get the balance of the 25. So 85%, you get 15% then back once they pay. But what the finance company do is they give you the money up front so that you can manage your business easier. And we were up to the level of £8 million, and overnight they decided they wanted their £8 million back as soon as possible. So they came in and virtually took over the business. So they would sit with me every single day and manage the business. So that's when we started on these really heavy cash flows. And
Is a company for the cash discount invoice provider?
right, so lots of companies offer cash invoice discounting, lots of them. Manufacturing is a little bit different because cash invoice discounting like you to say, for example, make a table and sell a table. But we in the manufacturing business don't do that, do we? So we make a bespoke product that really until the very end. So a project can last 2 years, can't it, in the making?
Long time.
And you make it as you go along. So when you have percentages, so if you have 15% on design and 15% on delivery, and so example, they don't like it. So manufacturing business, the world of manufacturing, there's only certain types of finance companies that will allow that to happen. So one is Bibby. Bibby Finance is a really big company. They do financing. We've been with Barclays. We've been with Lloyd's Financial Discounting. But this particular company that looked after us were called Lumi, Leumi, Lumi Finance. Lumi ABL it was. Leumi, so Lumi, and it was ABL after it. And they were a big financing company from London and Manchester. And they were extremely good. They were quite a small company. They were absolutely brilliant up to the point when we did this, and then they just lost faith in us and they wanted to pull the facility immediately. So they could.
How come that they agree that they're gonna give 8 million to expert, and then overnight they just say, I lose trust on you. I want to just sit with you and go to every step and take your business. How is that possible?
Because they can. It's quite aggressive. It's a covenant. So we broke a covenant. So they could. That's like a loophole in a legal. Like they got a tiny little way in, and they decided to go for it. So they were very aggressive and ruthless, and they didn't want to know. They were having none of it. They became very aggressive about it all, and we got business plans. It wasn't taking the business under. It was just we were reporting a very large loss in a year, and you could understand the logic. It wasn't taking. The company still had cash. We were still running. We were still profitable. We'd still got loads of. No, we weren't profitable. I'm lying there. We were, but we'd still. Sometimes you make a business decision and you think, like for example, so you've got a year end and you're looking at your year end and you're saying, okay, let's make a loss in the year that COVID happened, because you can get away with it because you've got a really good, reasonable excuse to do it. And I think lots and lots and lots and lots of companies will use the COVID year to show losses on their business. So they'll just throw loads of everything all into that one year and go, right, let's put it all into that year because you've got a very good reason behind it. And then you'll move forwards. But it doesn't mean that your business is going to fail because of that. Your business can still pick up. So we still had loads of orders. We had, everything was still all really good. But they decided they didn't want to. So they were just using it as a loophole to get out of the finance.
As well, right? That they take advantage. I believe
it was really, really underhand what they did. Yeah, they have a right to say, yes, we don't want to work with you anymore. Yeah. What they were doing was really horrible, and they were literally like really tight, like tightening a nut. They were screwing us and saying, right, you've got that day, and if you don't get out of it by that day, then we were that close. They came in every single day and sat at the end of my desk and managed our cash. And it was really over the top and cost us an absolute fortune. So, and when I say that, I'm talking about £30,000 a week in the cost for the audit companies. So we had Deloitte and who was the other one? We had Deloitte and PwC working in. So we had Deloitte on our side and PwC on the other side, and we had to pay the cost for both of them every week until we got to the end. So basically what they were making us do was get another finance company in to take over the finance and then pay them off. And you know, when I'm saying to you, when a business needs it, you can't get it. That's what I mean. As in, so we had a very limited, small amount of, so we ended up with a company called Nucleus kind of, so what they are, they're a bit like vultures. They circle on businesses that are in trouble, and they offer them a facility, but extortionate costs. So we had a company called Nucleus come in, which was very kind of them to lend us the money. They charged us about 3 times the amount of money of what the other company were charging us. So they charged us a lot of money to offer the finance. So it's a way they get a lot of money. But they all these finance people and finance providers and all these people, they all know each other. And they're all tipping each other off, telling each other. So when you talk about ethics, we went through this, and there's ethics in banking, there's ethics in finance, but there isn't in money lending. They can do what the hell they like, and it's really unethical what they do. It's really bad.
It's really thin line for the loophole that people can take ethical out of
Yeah,
the benefit that they think they
it's
can.
really bad. We were literally a day away from losing the whole business. Angelo would have lost everything, every single thing. The house he lived in, everything. We were literally one day, every day, we just about managed to scrape through. It was very, very, very tough, that was.
What come to play and rescue every part of this just for that day?
Well, cash flow, cash flow, and another finance company came in and saved it. So finance, and we had a new finance company come in, which was the Nucleus, who charged us lots of money for it. But we had a year deal with them, and in a year's time, we were in a different position, and we went and got more new financing. So the decision that the financial director made to go and tell them the truth, he didn't last long. He got moved on, because that was an absolute stupid decision, really, that he made. We should have, rightly or wrongly, we should have broke it gently, and we should have broken it down and done it in stages, and not just gone, there you go. So hence the decision that he made wasn't a great decision. So basically, good. So proving from a cash flow point of view that we could manage the business, and having a new finance provider saved it.
Before the edge had come to acquire the business, right? That is.
Oh yeah, that was in about 2015. That was a long time ago. Yeah, and then from then on, we just improved. And what we did, so you know, when I was talking about those cash flows, they were put in place whilst this all went wrong, because basically it made you feel like we weren't in control of the business. You know, fun to go on one project that lost It lost about £4 million. The loss was 4 million. We weren't in control of the business. Nobody was in control. The project managers were doing their own thing. We had no control over it. So they done us a favour, because then we became in control. That was a really long, hard fight. We then realised that those cash flows controlled the business, and we needed to control the business. So we ran them every single week, and we kept them going, and we kept running them, and that controlled the business. So we knew at any point. And do you know what the value of long-term contracts is, the VLTC? Yeah, that's another thing. We really became reliant. The VLTC runs the business, and so does the cash flow. And the VLTC tells you immediately when a project goes wrong. So you declare, you're not allowed, you can take profit on jobs that are over 75% complete, but if you have a loss, you immediately show the loss. So from the day the loss happens, you show it, but you can't take profit until the job is 75% complete. So basically, the VLTC is work in progress, but on a really heavy. It's really complicated and heavy. So it's all your incomings and all your outgoings, the labour, the hours, and everything is all put on. And the whole project then is monitored by how profitable it is. So we know instantly on their say 250 jobs that they've got, they would know immediately what profit they're making, the percentage of the profit on the job. So you would know in the future. So basically this was being, what's the word, I think. So they were being very creative, the project managers were, on their projects. So they would gauge. So before we ran the VLTC, they would give you a really good guess of where the project was. And their guess was so off the mark, it was untrue. So when we really screwed down on the VLTC and done actuals, it was quite a shock at how bad a lot of the projects were. So it enabled us to look at what jobs you do and say, actually, it's not worth doing that job, it's rubbish. And then you'd look at another job and go, actually, make a really good profit on that job there. So we would look at that and go, we want more jobs like that, and we want less jobs like that. So that's when we started to manage what jobs we do and what jobs we quote for, and then you could keep a track exactly of how it was all going. They're really in depth, the VLTC. That was a job of mine. That was one of my jobs, where every month we would do the value of long-term contracts, and it was quite complicated. It was another complicated spreadsheet that got really strict. So I implemented this. You would so month end, and then you'd have day 5. You would produce you'd have to have all the hours on, and you'd have to have all of the, so it would all be hours and labour and everything. Then that would all get macroed into spreadsheets. Then you would have all of the purchases, all of the sales that went into it. That would all be macroed in. Then you would have the project managers would then review it all, and all the contingencies or the spend that would be going on. Then they'd have a deadline, and then it would all get filtered in till you got your result. And then your result, I would sit down with, say, Kev Dukes, and we would go through the results of why things were bad, why things were good. And it opened his eyes a lot to what was right and what was wrong. So that's a really big control that came in the business. So the value of long-term contracts was a big control.
To the Excel spreadsheet, or you have to buy a certificate software to run
it was a lot of things. It was basically an Excel spreadsheet, though. It is basic. They all fed into the Excel spreadsheet. So all your hours and all of that were done on an MRP system. So your hours of your employees and your overtime and all your rates and all of
And
that,
how
that was all fed,
and how
that was all, sorry, go on.
creating that VLTC system? Is it you just inventing that, or is it something that we adopt from the some other company or the good
Um,
practice?
it's a well-known term
Right.
in lots of companies, but they'll all run it differently.
Yeah.
Um, but a value, so it's for long-term projects.
Yeah.
It's a project that runs over a period of time. For anything that was small, that was quick, 8 weeks, 12 weeks in and out of the door, you wouldn't run it. And we'd only run it for over, the value of the project had to be over, I think it started at 100,000. If it was over 100,000, we would do it. And if it was under, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
We did lower that eventually. We went to below 50,000 and over 50,000. But it's a well-known term in audit for businesses, manufacturing businesses especially, where they have contracts that are long-term contracts that go over a couple of years.
The project that lasts for millions, is it they using the VLTC as well, or at that time we don't have yet the
No, no, we didn't.
oh
And no one knew how bad that project
yeah.
was. We learned from being nearly taken under. We learned how to manage the business
Yeah.
fast, and that business. Well, that's why the business is where it is now, because we really put our foot down and put a lot of, when you grow from a small to a bigger business, you need to put controls in place. You need to make people responsible,
Yeah.
and the people weren't responsible. A project. So my husband worked at Jaguar Land Rover, and he was a project manager there, and he would run, £1 million of contracts, and they would have to run it on time, under budget, and extremely well. I went. I would go into expert and think these people don't even care. They don't. They've got no accountability. No one they've got. If their project's rubbish, they don't even. They don't get told off. They don't. They're not even bothered. And that we then started to put this into place where they did become accountable for it. They had to accept. So they have what they call project reviews, and they have them once a month. And the project would be reviewed with the project manager, the purchasing team, the sales team. They would all be in on the project review, and they would sit and talk about the whole project. And this all came into place. I think Phil Kelly bought something in similar but a lot smaller, and then after that event, we really put our foot down, and the VLTC was really, there was lots of, when I took over the VLTC, there was lots of things wrong with it. Lots of things a lot of the reporting wasn't done correctly, so I got set the task of taking everyone in, taking control of it, and I took control of it, and me and Kevin had a lot of arguments over that. And today it runs very well. It's very really I put in place I set up a lot of systems to get it working properly, correctly. Everything reconciling, so everything added up. Because when I took it over, the things I used to turn up to Kevin and say, explain to me why this, or this. So a lot of it would be go, oh no, the project managers have all put their hours in. Then I started to reconcile those hours, and I would say, we are something like £50,000 worth of hours missing. Where are they? And where are they? And what's going on? And we found out that they were booking to wrong projects. They were booking to wrong hours. They were, a lot of controls that weren't in place. So you've got to have the controls in your business that you can then reconcile them to.
Yeah. That's really interesting story.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, it's
This is
very good.
something in business book and business classes doesn't show.
Do you know what, Fon? It's from going from a business nearly going under that made us do that. Until then, we were not in control of the business. We thought we were, but we were definitely not. We were not in control at all.
Yeah, what I see, because I have a chance to be in, like, a group of many people who are a founder, and many people who are very successful, and I have a chance to interview them. And I personally, the way that I run anything personal and business is, I think you need a decent people to do things. I think that is a
Yeah,
fundamentally most important. You can be as smart as you like, you can be
yeah,
fast as you like, you can
yeah,
be technical as you like, but I think the common ground I found why people successful, I see one thing in common is a decent people rather being successful. It's just so difficult in a course of business 10, 20, 30 years.
absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people don't care, and they can be very clever,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
good, but they don't care. You've got to have good managers
yeah,
because they will control the people below them, and they will make those people responsible
yeah,
and report to them as they should. And you can be very fair about that and very good. But some people, we knew the good project managers and we knew the rubbish project managers,
yeah.
and it gives you good, you can gives you the good background of them to be able to work out who you want working on certain
Yeah,
projects.
and I think what Angelo great at is he being fair and being, like
Yeah,
credible. And I think
yeah,
what I value him the most, I never have any problem with him because I really trust him, and we don't need to think what going on behind. And I think
yeah.
he is that type of person, and I see again and again and again that this type of people who rather solve any critical problem and pass through become a successful at the very end. And I think this is
Yeah,
a critical one. And
yeah.
that's very nice. And I'm wondering, Jen, that when it run in tech company, like my friends and previous company, they normally have some kind of a financial package for people, like a stock or a reward to people who've been with them since start, and like equity and things like that, like a platform of startup, if you like, that you run a company, you grow very well, and you pick people who with you since started and do so well, and give them enough of financial reward for them to stay and be part of the company. Is this applied to expert as well?
So what we did, um, we decided to do so the senior team. So it's your senior team of people who um, who had, so they would be the people that you'd sit on a monthly basis with. We'd have a management meeting and they would sit in on the management meeting. You'd all have to contribute your areas. So you'd have your sales, you'd have your project management, you'd have your purchasing, you'd have your, the finance team and everything else. And what you do is you allow them to, you talk through the profit and loss and the balance sheet. So they know the financials of the business and they know where the business is going. So we based their yearly bonus on EBITDA of the business. So whatever the year end financial position was, the EBITDA would be, they would have, so there was a scale, and however high it got to, you got a percentage
Yeah,
for a bonus. And this bonus could work from 5 grand to 25 grand and for each individual person.
yeah,
But what it made them do was they wanted to make the business profitable.
yeah,
So they have to work hard to get the business profitable. So it would make them earn a bonus that's a lot of money.
yeah,
So, and that worked really well because they really invested in it. So you'd have like, you'd have the manufacturing team, the mechanical designers, you'd have, so it was all the senior management team.
yeah,
And then what they would do is they then would have people who worked for them that they found important, but they would just do a yearly similar sort of thing. It'd be on how good the projects were, how profitable they were, and all of that. But the senior team of the business were driven to make the business work because if the business worked and they got a good EBITDA, they'd get a very good
yeah.
bonus.
And when it comes to IPO, recently from expert if anybody become a millionaire with Angelo.
Would anyone become a millionaire with Angelo,
Yeah,
did you
so when
say?
you come like a tech company, when they come IPO, you get many people become millionaire for the IPO. I'm not sure if it applies to expert as well.
No. Angelo owned the whole business.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fantastic. Jen, it is so grateful. And would you mind I ask the last question that I'm trying to draw the picture of, I got so much from you today, but if you can see the screen here, I have a few like a critical issue for accountant and finance people facing. And all of these, if you would define, could be out beyond this information as well, that if you want to pick like top five of what make the accountant and finance like stay up at night, what are the most important, that what are the critical challenge that you're thinking if you're talking about top five here? Would you mind if you could walk me through this?
So this is me, and this is only me talking about when I worked in expert. So for me, cash flow is always
Yeah.
the number one. So let's go. So some of these are accurate financial forecast. So cash flow, then accurate financial forecast is number two.
Yeah.
Um, let's have a think. So, I mean, the Brexit situation would be could be a really big deal. I mean, it wasn't so much for us, but that could be in a company. But for me, the automation and artificial intelligence, that was a huge big thing in expert.
Okay.
We got so I would have put that
So it is
at
number
number
three.
three.
The Brexit not yet number three, right?
No, not Brexit. No, not for expert, but I would imagine that could be in a lot of companies. So number three for me is the automation and artificial intelligence, because we were just going into a process of doing so. Expert have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of purchase invoices a month, and by taking on this new accountancy task to do it automatically would have saved probably 2 employees of doing it. So that is something, keeping up to date. And my daughter works at Aston Martin, and she's an accountant there, and their systems are so old that she can't believe, like, they're just going through a process of changing. To do tasks that are done automatically by systems is amazing. So I think that's quite important. I also think keeping up new technology and tools, probably IT literacy is another one. And then I think that's the five. I think the Brexit and COVID, we managed that extremely well in expert. And hiring and retaining talent, actually fun. That's another big one. Maybe put hiring and retaining talent as number four, and number five, do the keeping up with new technology. So take five off the IT and put that's it.
Oh, that is
And I
fantastic.
tell you what, cyber security is a big
Yeah,
thing.
so actually it is important as well, right? So I put number five. So
Yeah,
business should consider that when it comes. So that's fantastic, Jane. I have learned so much. I've been like on the business and practically myself, and I work day and night, and you
oh,
never know in depth until you talk to people who have, like, I have a chance to interview from people who have that many decades of experience like yourself, and I can see that their insight is beyond the textbook. Beyond the
yeah,
textbook, and why people fail, it's really above and beyond. It isn't something that you can learn how cash flow work, what EBITDA
no,
calculated. It's just about everything that you mentioned here. you Anybody can be the point, they can lose everything, or being a millionaire like Angelo, and that point doesn't be stated in any textbooks. You go as
yeah,
you go. And And I see the company like Meta Vision. I think you know them. I think Angelo and Safari
Yeah,
want to buy them. Even OVST, it once got
yeah,
out of the market, and all of them, as we mentioned, they lost track of cash flow. And I just
yeah,
really serious that you have done incredible well that you make the break point that to expert come now to become an IPO. It is very impressive. But the company like
yes,
Meta Vision,
yeah,
OVST, when they run out of money, I'm sure that they have accountant. I'm sure that they know what cash flow mean. I'm sure that they have accountancy, Excel spreadsheet like what you do. And do you think what make people fail and not be able to articulate the way that you have done with expert, and why people doesn't really make it or being out of business using what your
yeah.
historical path?
It is a big challenge. I mean, you think, Tracker Windsor have just been bought, haven't they, by SH? And they were the same. They were just like a smaller version of us. And it's just controlling your business, being in control of your business, cash flow, being in control of. The company Penzo. Have you heard of them? Tom? They were a company that we used to deal with. They've just gone into administration. They struggled with cash flow and finance and all of that. So it's tough. It's good people. It's really good people that care about the business, want it to succeed. Um, and for me, it's cash flow all the way.
Yeah, because I don't understand this. If you know Meta Vision, I think you know Bob Beatty, Dr. Bob Beatty. He's one of the most admirable for me personally in business I ever worked with. And I just cannot understand. He's such a fantastic PhD in his degree, and being so intelligent, you will feel it if you talk to him. He's so intelligent, incredible hardworking, and manage a team well, and you couldn't find any boxes unchecked. And I just cannot understand the company out of the business over 30 years of founding, including all the bunch of people. And I seen why the company our business is. I should understand that. I think if people can go back and see how can they manage the cash flow at the point, they should have just like cut people, cut the loss, make it so that they can ensure the business can go further. They just don't do that. They just care
Yeah,
about keep
you can
people.
be you can be extremely intelligent, but you can't. Don't necessarily. That doesn't make you run a business. You've got to be. A lot of running the business is common sense.
Yeah,
It's very good common sense and very good controls in place,
yeah,
and and it's no different than if you were running a manufacturing business to running a garden business.
yeah,
It's exactly the same. Cash flow. If you haven't got the cash flow, you can't hire your tools, you can't get your vans out, you can't, it's all about cash. And then obviously profitable jobs and what you do and everything else. But it is about being sensible, a lot of common sense, and being quite strict with controls in place. You just need a sensible person
yeah.
to run.
Because of when I'm with Meta, the day that Bob told me that he lost the company to the Chinese, and I tell you honestly, I was crying. I didn't expect that. I couldn't believe it, and I sort of, and that's it. I done too because of I cannot work with the Chinese. They took the
Yeah,
company unethically, and but again, before that. I've been aggressively because my personality, I'm quite direct, and I just tell Bob and Jonathan, the head of the company and the founder, I say, Bob, it doesn't, it's not right here. I work there at night for OVSD and be profitable every quarter and year.
yeah,
But you run another project, in 2 years you never get any money, and I don't think you're gonna finish in another
yeah,
12 months. You got to stop that, and the whole company is working on that project. I just don't understand how that possible, and I think you make a very great point that sometimes it's just a logical sense of people. I don't mean it reflect intelligence in any way, but the logical
no,
sense does lead people to different direction, isn't it?
yeah. I do. I mean, like you say, Bob's a very intelligent person and everything else, but sometimes it's just common sense. It's just common sense. It's being, probably thorough, being very thorough, being very organised. You can have the most intelligent people, but they've just got no common sense whatsoever. Um, yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, yeah,
Just pick up your brain that the last one here that I think that at Meta Vision they are so intelligent. Like Jonathan Wolfgang, they are Oxford University graduate, and Bob is PhD
yeah,
graduate, and the finance director is the I think he is the Imperial College graduate. But all of them graduate in engineering. Even the finance director, I think all of them have the same sense of logical, i.e., engineering. I think that was the
yeah.
myth when I see why the company failed. And would you like some to say, like comparing to like as expert, it being successful until now, and they must have a different diverse people in different skill set, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think you've got to have, you had your people with certain strengths in certain things and certain, you need a collection of those skill sets, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Jane, I have to say a big thank you so much. It's so crucially, difficult. And when I sent out 160 email and got one
yeah.
back, and I feel like crying.
So disappointing, isn't it? Yeah, it is. I mean, do you know what fun I would have been in that? Where if you're working for a company, you just never. I never had the time. It's
Understand. I
always
totally
so
understand.
busy.
And especially
Uh,
in tech, like people are just so catching up what's going
yeah,
on, and I completely understood that. And I at one point like, am I gonna make this? And I can read, I can write as well I can be hardworking as I can, but without the people to give me the
yeah,
time,
yeah.
I wouldn't make it. But I'm lucky
Very
to,
hard.
yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
appreciate so much your time, and I mean,
yeah. No worries.
like
No
it's
worries.
just
It's good.
incredible. I'm so grateful I have this opportunity with you, and it means so much to me for your contribution in my research. I would like to thank you so much for this.
Yeah, no worries. Fun. Absolutely no problem.
Okay, so you take care, and hopefully we meet in the future as well.
Yeah, and you,
Yeah,
Fun.
thank
Take
you
care.
so
Oh,
much.
Fun. Am I good? Just a quick
Yes,
question.
please.
Am I okay to proceed with the June wages?